Andy Purwell for ID Boxing. We're in Sheffield. I was about to say Manchester. We're in Sheffield, and I'm joined by Matthew Hatton. Matthew, firstly, how are you?
I'm good, thank you.
Good to hear. Obviously, you've got your charge, your nephew next to you, Campbell Hatton. I'm sure he's about to have a few words to say about yourself in your training camp, but he's returning on Saturday night. From your perspective, how has training camp gone?
By far the best training camp we've had, really. I know you often hear that, you know, Campbell's been getting gradually better, but during this training camp, he's made big jumps, big leaps forward, and I'm a firm believer of what you see in the gym is what you see on fight night. Not always, of course, but I'm very expectant of a good performance from Campbell on Saturday.
I had a very good interview with Campbell. It was about a week ago when I told you I'd just come up to the gym, and we kind of spoke about the development since the Sonny Martinez fight. From your perspective, how much do you feel he has come on from that fight? How much do you feel he's learned since then?
I think he learned him a hell of a lot. I think as a team we learned a hell of a lot. He should never have been put in that position. To put such a young man in front of that many people was a big mistake, and it should never have happened. It did happen. He come away, he got the win. He did get some criticism after that fight, but he's bounced back really well from that. You know, Sonny Martinez put, you know, a good fight down the line possibly for Campbell. Maybe we'll see that again. But he's learned a lot from not just the experience in the ring, but what happened before that. He should never have been put in that position.
What was it like for you, not just as Campbell's trainer, but as his uncle, to have seen some of those critics around that fight, Matthew? I imagine it was as disheartening for you as what it was for him.
Yeah, I mean, I used to get a fair bit of criticism myself. You know, when I started out, I didn't have a lot of amateur experience when I turned professional, and I took my fair amount of criticism myself. So it is something when you get put in the spotlight, you've just got to deal with it. But Campbell's had to deal with it so early, and yeah, he's you know, you've just got to concentrate on what you're doing, and it's the final destination where you get to what's important, and I do believe we can get Campbell there.
You move on from that fight and you look at kind of his record since, and getting those couple of stoppages back to back from Bilbao onwards. I know his most recent fight went to points, but for yourself, how pleasing was it that he was able to get those stoppage victories so he can put it out of his mind? He's got it, and now he can move on and just focus on his boxing.
Yeah, and you know, the thing is, I've been a boxer myself, so things what other people say I've experienced, and even though we all say, oh, it's all about the performance, it's winning that matters, as a fighter, you want that first stoppage. And he got two good stoppages on the spin, you know, a good win over in Spain. He boxed Joe Ducker, who was a good opponent, stopped him, probably his best performance so far, and he was solid enough last time. So Campbell's showing improvement, and I think we'll see a big improvement on Saturday.
You mentioned a big improvement. What are you actually hoping for him to show?
What's that, sorry?
What are you hoping for him to show that we haven't seen so far in terms of improvement?
On Saturday, I want Campbell to show a little bit more composure. You know, we've seen him box at a high pace. That's something that he's always going to have. And there'll come a day where he'll need that. I want to see him on Saturday just slow it down, pick his shots, and show his class, because he can box as well as fight, Campbell.
When I spoke to him a couple of weeks ago, he mentioned that he can see himself boxing at least a couple more times beyond this. Is that the plan for you? Are you happy to see him out at least a couple more times this year?
Yeah, ideal scenario for me. Obviously, we've got Saturday coming up. I'd like to see him fight end of September, early October, and then again, you know, one more before Christmas. That'd be ideal. That'd be perfect.
Just moving away from that, I want to get your thoughts on a couple of other things. Obviously, he's managed by 258, and the man at the front of that, Usyk-Joshua, is out in Saudi Arabia, currently getting ready for his rematch with Alexander Usyk. Matthew, just want to get your thoughts on that as we edge ever closer to the Usyk-Joshua and Alexander Usyk rematch out in Saudi Arabia.
I can't wait for it. I really am looking forward to it. I'm a big AJ fan. You know, he's a fighter who has always had his knockers, a lot of criticism. I've always been an AJ fan from day one. I think it's a tough night for him. I really do. Really looking forward to the fight. I think AJ can do better this time, but I think it's a big night for him. Big test and a big job.
People spoke about beforehand how heading into that rematch he just needs to be more aggressive. Is it as simple as that in your eyes, Matthew?
Not as simple as that, you know. Of course it isn't. I think he has got to use that size and be a little bit more physical. But, you know, Usyk, not just a good fighter, anyone around that kind of weight, he can punch as well. So he can't be gung-ho. He's got to use his smarts, but he has got a little bit more physical this time. He's got a good team around him. I'm sure they'll have a better game plan this time. But still a tough night.
Matthew, I also want to get your thoughts on the heavyweight division up here, up north. Tyson Fury and Derek Chisora. There's been some reports recently about bouts being spoken about between the pair of them, a trilogy fight. Have you got any interest in seeing the pair of them share the ring one final time?
Sounds bad. No, not really. I mean, we've seen it, haven't we? And, you know, Chisora was fantastic again last time. But Tyson Fury is right at the top of the tree, isn't he? So I'd only see one result in that fight. And, you know, going into a fight as a boxing fan, you want to see good matchups, don't you? And I think Tyson Fury would be a big favourite in that one.
And final one, Matthew, your former foe, Canelo's getting ready for his bout on September 17th against Gennady Golovkin again. A trilogy bout there. What's your take?
Again, before the last fight against Bivol, I'd have fancied Canelo really strongly. Obviously, he's coming off a defeat now against Bivol. You know, when a fighter reaches a certain level of fame, so much money behind him, he's more like a celebrity these days. Is that hunger starting to wane? Maybe. And does that present Golovkin with a chance? Possibly. Canelo would still be my pick, but again, before the last fight, I'd have really fancied Canelo big time. But I mean, it's a good matchup. I think it's a closest fight, but I think he's still got to favour Canelo if he's still got the hunger.
You mentioned hunger there, Matthew. Obviously, when you go back to when you fought him when he was that young fighter, obviously still coming through and kind of beating those guys who put in and around him. Now, obviously, constantly challenging world-level fighters. Do you think that the hunger has kind of left him a little bit? Is that something which maybe you thought?
Possibly, yeah. I do think it's human nature. You know, maybe the hunger has gone. And for me, one of the most vital things a fighter can have is that hunger. Once that starts waning, it's time to get out. That's partly the reason why I stopped boxing. I lost my very last fight in South Africa. I was really honest myself. Was he a better fighter than me? No. Did he want it more than me? Yes. Time to get out.
Right, Matthew, we'll leave that one there now, and then I'll leave you to go and get Campbell ready to get into the ring for his workout. Thank you for speaking to me.
Top man. Cheers.